I was sucked into the world of a romance novel, reborn as the handsome, ridiculously wealthy young CEO. Now the new cleaning lady, a divorcee with 3 kids, is screaming that I'm destined to fall in love with her. The scholarship student my family sponsors, now living in my house, tells me to stay away from her and give up any ideas I might have. And at my own engagement party, my fiancée hears her old flame is back in the country and ditches me at the altar, leaving both our families in disgrace while claiming that if I truly loved her, I'd let her be free. Are all the heroines in these stories completely out of their minds? Too bad for them. I'm a perfectly sane CEO, and I have zero intention of playing along with their delusions. One minute, I was kicking back with a beer, scrolling through some trashy web novel on a reading app, and the next I was here. I went from being a regular guy to a ridiculously handsome, multi-billionaire CEO. Honestly, I'm not complaining. This life of obscene and unpretentious wealth is pretty damn enjoyable. But lately, a series of bizarre events has started to seriously get on my nerves. It started with a cleaning lady who always seemed to be tidying up my office or lurking in the hallway outside. At first, I didn't think anything of it. As the heir to the Grant family fortune and the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar Grant corporation, my days are packed. I don't have time to pay attention to the cleaning staff. But this woman had no sense of boundaries. She'd burst in even when I was in the middle of important meetings. The thing is, I have a stunning, whip-smart executive assistant who handles every aspect of my work and personal schedule. There is absolutely no reason for some cleaning lady to keep popping in to make her presence known. It was infuriating. That same day, I called my beautiful assistant in my office and gave her a serious dressing down. It was her screw-up, after all. Her negligence allowed unauthorized personnel to repeatedly access the executive suite. The head of facilities management also got an earful from me. I made it clear that if he couldn't manage his own people, I'd find someone who could. And yet, even with the head of facilities watching his staff like a hawk, the cleaning lady still managed to sneak upstairs. "Brenda, who told you to come up here? I turned my back for 1 second to use the restroom, and you sneak up to the CEO's office door. You're going to get me fired." "Wait, stop right there." The facilities manager saw the cleaning lady, Brenda, mop and bucket in hand, about to shove open my office door. He let out a strangled cry and sprinted toward her, looking utterly panicked and reaching out desperately like a character in a bad soap opera. But it was like Brenda Fisher couldn't hear him. Without even knocking, she threw open the door to my office. At that exact moment, my tall, gorgeous assistant was massaging my shoulders. The next second, Brenda went full-on drama queen. Tears streamed down her face as she pointed a trembling finger at me and my assistant, launching into a tirade. The way she carried on, you'd think she was the wronged wife who had just caught her husband cheating with his secretary. "Mr. Grant, what are you two doing? Is this little tramp trying to seduce you? In broad daylight. What are you two doing behind a closed door? Connor, how could you do this to me?" "Me?" "My assistant." "The facilities manager." The crowd of onlookers in the hall. Sigma. What kind of crazy talk was this? The woman had to be nuts. What did she mean? How could I do this to her? What did my assistant giving me a shoulder rub have to do with her? Anyone who heard her lunatic rant would think I was some two-timing scumbag who'd left her high and dry. A cleaning lady in the company was trying to police the CEO? This was beyond absurd. It was absurdity opening the door for its absurd cousin to come in and get comfortable. Who the hell gave her the nerve? Was her brain waterlogged? Or just plain broken? Are the female leads in these romance novels all this unhinged? Unfortunately for her, I'm a rational CEO. I have no intention of indulging her insanity. My gaze locked onto Brenda Fisher, then shifted to the head of facilities. It was the look of a predator that had just singled out its prey. The facilities manager looked like he was about to piss his pants, the hair on his arms standing on end. Before I could even unleash my fury, he acted. Slap, slap. He rushed in front of Brenda and, with a roar of anger, delivered 2 sharp slaps across her face. Her wrinkled cheeks instantly swelled up, turning her face into a perfectly symmetrical pig's head. The damn troublemaker deserved it. Her little stunt was going to drag him down with her. If Brenda hadn't begged a distant relative to pull some strings, and if he hadn't taken pity on her story of being a divorced mother of 3, the facilities manager would never have hired her in the first place. He was kicking himself now, his guts twisted with regret over that moment of weakness. "Brenda, are you out of your damn mind? Who told you to sneak up here? Instead of doing your job, you come up here and slander Mr. Grant and Ms. Shaw. You psycho. If you don't want to work, then get out. Pack your crap and go. My department doesn't have room for a drama queen like you." The man in charge of a whole department of cleaners wasn't a pushover. He laid into Brenda, grabbing her by the arm and trying to drag her out. But that only made it worse. Brenda Fisher didn't back down. She struggled wildly, screaming at the top of her lungs. It was as if she were possessed, yelling that I, Connor Grant, was destined to fall in love with her, a divorcee with 3 kids. Mr. Grant, how can you be so cruel? I am your soulmate. You are destined to fall in love with me. We are a match made in heaven. You must devote yourself to me and only me. I don't even mind that you're younger than me. So what are you complaining about? So what if I'm divorced with 3 kids? It just proves I'm healthy and fertile. Besides, you get to skip decades of hard work and instantly have 3 kids call you dad. My 3 sons can help you run the company. Then we can live happily ever after, just the 2 of us. A collective gasp went through the onlookers. Brenda's unhinged monologue left everyone speechless. What kind of deranged soap opera was this? The billionaire CEO falls for the divorced cleaning lady with 3 kids? No one ever imagined such a bizarre scene would play out in the headquarters of a multi-billion-dollar Grant Corporation. Well, I'll be damned. It was a real eye-opener. Bang! I slammed my palm down on the desk. If I let her keep spewing this nonsense, they could film a whole season of a TV show. Shut up. I pointed at the melodrama-spewing cleaning lady and laughed, though there was no humor in it. Ma'am, do I look like I have brain damage? You think I'm going to fall in love with a divorced mother of 3? Smack! I gave my tall, gorgeous assistant a light smack on her rear, making her blush and squirm playfully. See this? I'm a normal man, a normal CEO. I don't have any weird kinks, I declared. Why would I pass up a beautiful, young, sexy woman for someone with a face full of wrinkles like yours? Stop reading those idiotic billionaire romance novels and watching those trashy shows. They're rotting your brain. The company hired you to work, not to perform a one-woman tragedy outside my office door. If you're crazy, go see a doctor. With that, my face darkened as I addressed the heads of facilities, HR, security, and legal, who had all gathered by now. I rattled off a series of commands. Facilities, HR, security, your quarterly bonuses are canceled. You failed to manage your subordinates, hired an employee who harasses and slanders the CEO, and failed to prevent an unauthorized person from repeatedly accessing the executive floor. Security, work with legal. Pull the surveillance footage from the last few days, and make sure you have a recording of her little speech just now. Legal, based on that evidence and company policy, terminate this delusional cleaning lady's employment immediately. Then call the police. The 3 department heads nodded grimly, not daring to object. I shot one last cold glance at Brenda Fisher, who had collapsed onto the floor. This company is not above the law, I stated firmly. Every employee will adhere to its rules and regulations. I don't want to see this woman again, and I don't want to see any other employee pull a stunt like this. If you want to act out your tragic dramas or self-destruct, do it at home, not at my company. The next time something like this happens, the consequences will be severe. The crowd dispersed as if granted a pardon. The facility's manager and security guards dragged Brenda away to be processed. After all, you don't get chosen to run a multi-billion-dollar corporation and become the Grant family heir by being a pushover. I wasn't one of those brain-dead, lovesick CEOs from the novels. Soon enough, the company terminated the cleaning lady's contract for failing her probationary period and blacklisted her from all Grant Corporation subsidiaries. The legal department's lawyers were sharp. They used the evidence to get her sent to a holding cell for a little reality check. When you encounter a heroine this unhinged, it's best to let the state's correctional facilities handle her education. After a long day, I finally returned to my luxurious mansion. Before I even stepped inside, I could hear cheerful laughter coming from within. Connor, you're back. Come, I want you to meet someone. My mother greeted me with a wide smile, taking my hand and leading me inside. When I entered the grand foyer, I saw a young woman standing there. She was pretty, but her clothes were drab and worn, washed so many times they looked like they were molded to her skin. She clearly came from poverty, yet she stood in this opulent mansion with an air of unnerving composure. Was it my imagination? Or was she holding her chin up with a look of utter disdain for everything around her? My mother pointed to the girl and said, Connor, this is Willow Reed. She's a student our family has been sponsoring. Then, taking Willow's calloused hand, my mother added, Willow just got into NYU's Tisch School of the Arts and will be staying with us for a while. She insists on doing some housework to thank us for our years of support. Such a thoughtful girl. Willow Reed, doing housework for us? The Grant estate has a full staff of maids and housekeepers. Why would we need a college student to do chores? I didn't know what her angle was, but I had a feeling that in a romance novel world, a girl named Willow was bound to be trouble. I tried to be diplomatic. Mom, she fought her way out of Appalachia. The first thing she should be doing is focusing on her studies, not doing chores for us. I glanced at Willow. The fact that she's grateful is enough. It means our sponsorship wasn't wasted. She should be putting all her energy into her education so she can become a productive member of society. Don't you agree? My mother heard this and thought it made perfect sense. However, Willow shot me a look of pure hatred and immediately objected. Me? Mrs. Grant, if you don't let me show my gratitude, my conscience will bother me, she said, her voice dripping with false sincerity. I promise it won't interfere with my studies. I won't let your investment in me go to waste. But my family raised me to believe that you must always repay kindness. Just let me cook a few meals for you, or keep you company and chat. That would be more than enough. Willow was clearly suppressing her annoyance, putting on a sweet and obedient act for my mother. My mother, always kind and gentle, saw the student she'd sponsored being so considerate and couldn't bring herself to refuse for fear of hurting her feelings. She patted the back of Willow's hand and nodded with a smile. All right then, Connor is so busy I barely see him. And since your uncle passed a few years ago, this big house can get a little lonely. It would be nice to have you here to talk to, Willow. Soon, Willow had my mother laughing, and the two of them were chatting away on the sofa like old friends. I frowned, watching them, unable to figure out what Willow was up to. After dinner, I hit the home gym for a run and a workout. After showering, I still wasn't tired, so I went for a walk in the back garden. There, I ran into Willow Reed. My eyes narrowed in suspicion at the object in her hand, the latest, top-of-the-line iPhone. A poor college student from a rural village, someone who needed my family's money just to get into college. How did Willow Reed have the newest, most expensive iPhone? Connor Grant, why are you staring at me like that? She snapped. I'm telling you right now, it's never going to happen between us. So get rid of any little ideas you have and don't even think about trying anything. Just because you're rich doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Give up. Stop trying to get my attention. Seeing me looking at her, Willow went on the defensive, launching into a tirade. Me? I had just dealt with the unhinged cleaning lady, Brenda Fisher, this morning, and now another lunatic had appeared. I'm just a normal CEO. Why does every female lead think I'm destined to fall in love with her? You're just a scholarship student my family sponsors. What gives you the right to be so arrogant? I glanced around. There was nothing weird nearby. She wasn't possessed by a ghost, so why was she spouting such nonsense? I stared at her coldly and replied with a single word. Psycho. Willow reacted as if I'd stepped on her tail. She completely lost it. She stuck her nose in the air, her face a mask of defiance. Connor Grant, do you really think acting like this is going to get my attention? I'm telling you, playing hard to get won't work on me. This time, I won't submit to your dirty money. I don't love you. Not one bit. Don't you dare think you can use your money to ruin my chances of finding true love. What the hell was she even talking about? Psycho. She clearly didn't understand plain English. Seeing another one of these drama queens starting her act, my patience completely evaporated. My right hand seemed to have a mind of its own, and it flew through the air. Slap. The babbling Willow Reed finally fell silent. Oh, that felt good. Willow clutched her left cheek, now imprinted with 5 red finger marks, and stared at me in utter disbelief. She never imagined that in her new, reborn life, I would call her a psycho and then slap her across the face. Connor Grant, you bastard. How dare you? Oh, how could you call me that? Why, you actually hit me. Willow covered her face with one hand and pointed at me with the other, her face a perfect replica of a crying soap opera meme. I swear, I have a real talent for this. In a single day, I managed to make 2 different heroines break down like bad actors. But I'm a normal CEO. I didn't let Willow's bizarre ranting and raving mess with my head. I snatched the new iPhone from her hand and demanded coldly, "You're a poor college student who needs my family's financial aid. How can you afford a phone that costs over $1,000? Either you've been lying to us from the beginning and using our money to live it up, or you have a sugar daddy supporting you. So tell me, what's your real reason for coming to my house?" The slap must have knocked a few more screws loose, because Willow's response was even more delusional. She sneered. $1,000 phone? Please. I wouldn't even look twice at an oceanfront mansion worth over $100 million. A multi-million-dollar supercar is just a piece of junk to me. Once I'm a famous celebrity, I'll be able to buy several of these cheap phones with what I spend on a single meal. A giant question mark formed over my head. A poor college student in faded clothes was standing in front of me, a multi-billionaire CEO, and spouting this kind of incredible nonsense. Who is the CEO here, me or her? Wait a minute. I caught a key piece of information in her little speech. She said when she becomes a famous celebrity. And she said this time she wouldn't submit to my money or let it destroy her true love. Since I was already in a romance novel world where anything could happen, was it possible that this heroine, Willow Reed, had been reborn? Once that idea clicked, everything immediately made sense. In her past life, she must have used my favor and my money, along with my family's resources, to launch her career. She became a famous celebrity and my kept woman. But she was in love with someone else and felt unfulfilled, resentful that she had wealth, but not love. So, Willow was reborn, returning to the day she moved into my house and started things off with a preemptive strike of warnings and accusations. No wonder she'd been attacking me with crazy talk since the moment I met her. If that was the case, then this was going to be easy. The great heroine has been reborn and wants to make it on her own this time, right? Fine by me. I was more than happy to help her with that. It's always better to keep a venomous snake at a distance. Let's see how this reborn viper becomes a nationwide celebrity without my dirty money and the Grant family's resources. How is she going to maintain her true love when she can't even survive and finish school? Clap, clap, clap. I couldn't help but applaud her magnificent declaration. You look down on the Grant family mansion, and my $1 million cars are junk in your eyes. You got ambition, Willow. I'll give you that. I paused, a smirk playing on my lips. Since you're so capable, the Grant family will be withdrawing all financial support for your education. After all, that aid money wouldn't even buy you a few of these $1,000 phones, right? Oh, and I look forward to you becoming a huge star. I'll be sure to bring my mother and all my employees to buy tickets to support you. Willow froze, a flash of panic in her eyes as she started to explain. I had no time to waste on her. I turned and walked away. The next day, I easily convinced my mother to cut off Willow's funding. We also had her pack her bags and move into the dorms at the university. No, you can't do this. If you're going to sponsor me, you have to see it through to the end. How can you just cut me off because of a few words I said? Mr. Grant, I was wrong last night. I shouldn't have offended you. Seeing Willow desperately clinging to the front gate, refusing to leave while trying to explain and guilt trip us, I asked mockingly, "Oh, you were wrong? Wrong about what?" Willow thought she saw an opening, assuming I was still lusting after her. She cursed me 1,000 times in her head, but her words were a forced apology. I shouldn't have been so rude to you. I shouldn't have made such wild claims in front of you. And I was wrong to assume you had improper intentions toward me. Even as she choked out the apology, Willow was making a vow to herself. Once I took her back and started showering her with attention again, she would play along. She would use my money and the Grant family's resources to become a star, and then she would make me pay. Having been a celebrity and lived a life of luxury in her past life, the reborn Willow wasn't a fool. Right now, she had nothing. Her very survival was at risk. Without my money and resources, she couldn't even stay in college, let alone become a star. But since she was reborn, she was determined to find a way to get rid of me and live happily ever after with her true love. But here's the thing, I'm a normal CEO. Why would I give her the chance to raise a viper that would one day turn around and bite me? Willow saw that I wasn't speaking, just watching her performance with an amused smile. She turned her attention to my mother. In her previous life, and just yesterday when she was reborn, my elegant and gentle mother had been very kind to her. But Willow was too arrogant. She had forgotten the most crucial detail. My mother's kindness toward her was entirely dependent on my attitude. My mother was immensely proud of her handsome and capable son, who had taken control of the Grant family and corporation at such a young age. Did Willow really think her petty schemes could fool a woman born into a billionaire dynasty? The only reason my mother went along with it in the previous life was because I liked her. So, no matter how much Willow cried and begged, my mother, who had been so warm and friendly just the day before, remained completely unmoved. "Aya, I hate you. You rich people, why do you get to do whatever you want? You promised to sponsor me. Why would you just stop like that? Is it fun for you, bullying and toying with us poor people? You're cruel and heartless. You'll get what's coming to you one day. And just so you know, I've been reborn. I refuse to believe that as a reborn person, my life will be worse than yours. Just you wait. I, Willow Reed, will repay the humiliation you've shown me today 100 times over. Connor Grant, you will never have me. I could never love you in this lifetime. Go to hell, you loser." When Willow realized she couldn't manipulate us into continuing her sponsorship, she flew into a rage, her true, ugly nature on full display. She pointed at us, jumping up and down as she spewed venom, resorting to everything from moral blackmail to unhinged screeching. It was nothing but a powerless tantrum. My mother, her expression serene, walked over and slapped her twice. Willow could curse the Grant family. She could even curse my mother, but she could not curse her son. That was a line you did not cross. Such a filthy mouth. You deserve that, my mother said coldly. Consider me blind for ever sponsoring a viper like you. Mr. Franklin, throw her out. To push my exceptionally composed mother to the point of not only losing her temper, but physically striking someone. Willow was truly a master of self-destruction. Wait, my mother called out suddenly. The bodyguards, who were dragging the struggling Willow toward the door, paused. A glimmer of hope returned to Willow's desolate eyes. She thought her main character aura had worked, then my mother had changed her mind. But she was destined for another disappointment. My mother walked over, took the $1,000 iPhone out of Willow's bag, pulled out the new clothes she'd been given, and handed them to our butler, Mr. Franklin. I bought you all of this yesterday. You won't be taking a single thing from the Grant family with you, she declared. Mr. Franklin, donate all of it. Then throw her out and make sure security knows her face. She is never to come near this mansion or set foot on Grant property again. Spoken like a true matriarch of New York high society. My mother was decisive and ruthless. Mr. Franklin nodded and instructed the bodyguards to remove her. Willow's struggles and curses were useless. She was unceremoniously dumped outside the gates of our residential community. Knowing she was a reborn protagonist, I prepared for various scenarios. But Willow's performance was a major letdown. She was supposed to be getting revenge on me and my family. So how did she manage to defeat herself before I even made a move? Without our funding, Willow couldn't afford the exorbitant tuition at Tisch. She had to drop out and take a job as a waitress, getting chewed out by her boss and managers daily. It's easy to go from rags to riches, but incredibly hard to go from riches back to rags. In her past life, supported by my family, Willow had sailed through college. Afterward, with my money and the Grant family's resources backing her, she was launched into stardom. She had lived a life of carefree luxury. How could she possibly endure this kind of backbreaking, low-wage work now? Willow had always believed her beauty and talent were the keys to her fame. So she told off her demanding boss, took her paycheck, and headed to Hollywood to chase her dream of stardom. But Los Angeles is flooded with over 1 million aspiring actors, most of them young and beautiful. How many of them actually make it big? Relying on her memories from her past life, Willow sought out the directors who had once championed her. But without the backing of the Grant family's resources, no one gave her the time of day. Well, that's not entirely true. A few sleazy, pot-bellied directors offered her small roles in exchange for becoming their mistress. Willow, who had never faced such humiliation, slapped one of the greasy directors across the face. In return, she got a beating, a torrent of abuse, and was effectively blacklisted from the industry. Her journey to stardom was over before it even began. With no other skills, Willow could only find work as a hotel or restaurant waitress. She would rather die than work a factory assembly line. She couldn't handle that kind of hardship, but she was used to spending money lavishly from her past life, and a waitress's salary was pitifully small. To make matters worse, when her parents back in Appalachia found out she had dropped out of school, they came to the city to drag her home to be married off. The groom was supposedly an old butcher, a widower with 3 sons, a brutish face, and a history of domestic violence. The image of being beaten by a fat, abusive butcher while his 3 leering sons watched was enough to make Willow nearly wet herself. It shattered her pride completely. She no longer dared to harbor any ambitions or foolish ideas. Her only option was to camp out on my daily route to work, shamelessly waiting. Like a patient statue, she finally managed to catch me once. Harsh reality had taught her that she wasn't as amazing as she thought. Her success in her past life was built entirely on my money and resources. In the end, Willow gave up on finding her true love. She knelt before me, willingly begging me to take her in. But does a handsome, rich, young CEO like me ever have a shortage of beautiful women? Not a chance. Finally, after apologizing profusely to me and my mother, and kneeling at our mansion's gate for a full day and night, I decided to take her back. Out of consideration for the fact that she had been my woman in a past life, I'd let her be a simple, kept woman this time. Her first time, in her past life, and in this one, could only be mine. She was mine, after all. Even if I was just going to put her on a shelf, I couldn't let another man touch her. This time, Willow was much more obedient. She played different roles every day, maid, nurse, schoolgirl, doing anything and everything to please me. As my personal assistant, she was diligent and hardworking. Even when she saw me flirting with other women, she didn't dare show a hint of emotion. If I allowed it, she was even willing to join in, just as long as I didn't kick her out. Pride, rebirth, being a heroine, true love, freedom. Right now, dressed in a cat costume and purring on my bed, Willow Reed would tell you to shove it all. See? These so-called heroines, even the reborn ones, are all nuts. They just need to be taught a lesson. Time flew by, and soon it was the end of the year. The life of a multi-billionaire is always so simple and unpretentious. After dealing with the cleaning lady, Brenda Fisher, and taming the reborn scholarship student, Willow Reed, the bizarre incidents in my life finally started to die down. I'd still run into some oddballs at the company, on the street, or at cocktail parties, but they were minor annoyances, easily handled. I let my guard down, and that's when life decided to hit me with its craziest script yet. The one area where I thought nothing could go wrong became the source of the biggest problem. As the Grant family heir and a remarkably capable young CEO, I was naturally the most sought-after bachelor for an arranged marriage among New York's elite families. At our level, permanent alliances built on mutual interest are the strongest bonds. Love and affection are merely decorative. My mother, born an heiress herself, understood this perfectly and was extremely selective in choosing a suitable match for me. She finally settled on the daughter of the Vance family, and I had no objections. The Vances and the Grants had been allies for generations, with a history of intermarriage going back to my grandfather's time. Our families knew each other inside and out. This alliance was supposed to be rock solid, a sure thing. The Vance family put forward their eldest daughter, Isabel Vance, as my intended. We had even attended the same elite prep school as children. But I was a prodigy, getting snatched up by Ivy League universities at 15. By the time she went abroad for college, I had already returned home with a Ph.D. By the time she graduated, I was already leading the Grant Corporation to new heights. We hadn't interacted much over the years, but my mother and the entire Grant family trusted the Vance family's reputation. I never, ever expected that at our engagement party, the most talked-about social event in New York City, my fiancé would elope with another man. Just as we were about to exchange rings, Isabel's old flame, Ace Ryder, miraculously appeared. Don't put on that ring. I object. Isabel, I'm the one you love. We're the ones who are truly in love. The one who isn't loved is the third wheel. Wow, such cliché, melodramatic lines. You'd almost think I, the fiancé, was the one who had stolen my own fiancé. And where the hell was security? Did they all drop dead? He didn't have an invitation, and he wasn't on the staff list. How did this third-rate old flame, who'd been hiding out in Europe, even get in? Of course, the most baffling part is why these old flames always run off to another country after a breakup. It's like a stupid game of hide and seek. In this age of technology, is it really that hard to get on a plane? Can't these lovesick idiots just fly over and talk things out? Or make an international call? Hire a private investigator? It's so simple. Why is it that in these trashy romance novels, breaking up and going abroad is treated like they've traveled to outer space? No contact, no calls, like they've fallen off the face of the earth. Then, at the most critical moment, our high-profile engagement party, he suddenly pops up to stage a dramatic elopement. It was beyond ridiculous. Ace, I knew you'd come. How could you bear to let me marry another man? I will always be your woman. No one can ever tear us apart. Seeing her old flame Ace Ryder appear out of nowhere, Isabel Vance was overcome, tears of joy streaming down her face. Isabel, you can't marry him. Only I can give you the best life. Isabel, marry me. I'll make you the happiest woman in the world. Ace knelt down, holding out a ring woven from a blade of grass, and proposed with a look of deep affection. Every sane person in the room was stunned into silence. A scruffy, dirty-looking bum was holding a grass ring and boldly proclaiming he would give the heiress of the Vance family the best life, that he would make one of New York's most prominent socialites the happiest woman in the world. Had the world gone completely insane? And yet, Isabel Vance's brain wasn't functioning normally. She covered her mouth with her hands, her face a picture of blissful shyness as she nodded enthusiastically. Without a moment's hesitation, Isabel took the ring that was meant for me and slipped it onto Ace Ryder's finger. Ace shot me a look of pure defiance, his disdain unconcealed. Then, Isabel turned to me on the stage, her eyes blazing with righteous fury as she threw accusations at me. Connor Grant, you don't know the first thing about love. If you loved me, you would give me my freedom, not chain me with alliances and business deals. I've had enough of it all. I'm going to follow my heart and find my true love and freedom. The next second, they were holding hands and running out of the ballroom in a blaze of glory. Seriously, all this time had passed, and security still hadn't made a move? Everyone just stood there and watched them perform their little melodrama before making their escape. Had this woman been kicked in the head by a donkey? Even if you're going to elope with your worthless old flame, you have to pick your moment. But no, she chose to do it at her own engagement party, in front of the entire New York City elite. She showed zero regard for the reputation of the Grant and Vance families, and even less for my dignity as her fiancé, as if running off in such a spectacular fashion would somehow prove their stolen love was eternal. Chaos erupted on the Vance family side of the room. Shouts and curses filled the air, and someone even called an ambulance. Isabel's parents, who adored her, had fainted from the shock. I stood on the stage, calmly watching the drama unfold. I had a feeling this unhinged heroine, Isabel Vance, had been brainwashed by too many elopement fantasies. Sure, it was humiliating, but for a dynastic marriage devoid of any real emotion, the impact on me was minimal. One Isabel Vance running off only meant an opportunity for all the other eligible heiresses in the city. My mother and I handled the situation with composure, and the chaos quickly subsided. Besides, you can't just end an event of this magnitude in disgrace because the bride-to-be bolted. The first to rush up the stage was Sloane Kensington, the girl who'd had a crush on me since we were kids. "Connor, I'm here to save the day. How are you going to thank me?" she chirped. "I told you Isabel Vance was an idiot. She's got nothing on me." She even pulled out 2 rings she had prepared in advance, showing them off with a cheeky grin. I sighed and ruffled her hair, trying to shoo her off the stage. "Sloane, I've always seen you as a little sister. I never knew you were secretly trying to get in my pants. Besides, our families have some bad blood from the last generation. It's not that easily resolved." But this firecracker of a girl just waved her hand dismissively. "That old drama is ancient history. The Kensington family listens to me now," she declared with unwavering confidence. "Besides, it was our family's fault to begin with. Why should we keep holding a grudge against the Grants? That fool Isabel Vance is blind. She'll regret this for the rest of her life. She's just a tramp. Not like me. I've been saving myself for you. Brother, say yes, please." Damn it. Why did this little brat have to use that cutesy baby voice? It was enough to melt a man's resolve. And then, in front of everyone, she pinned me against the stage backdrop. Stop, Sloane. Who's the domineering CEO here? You or me? My fearsome reputation is officially ruined, thanks to you. Fine. It's just an engagement party, right? What's the big deal? I'll tell you what." Before I could finish, the little brat silenced me with a kiss. A true little demon. The hall erupted in applause and cheers, as if Isabel Vance's grand elopement had been nothing more than a minor interruption. Sloane Kensington, who was so sweet and playful with me, was a ruthless tyrant within her own family. She forced the uncle responsible for the feud between our families to publicly apologize to my mother and grandfather. The Kensingtons also demonstrated their sincerity by offering the Grants a partnership in a highly profitable new venture. With that, the old feud was buried. The Grant and Kensington families were officially united by marriage. And I, with the little demon Sloane Kensington, began a life of shameless bliss. Our families joined forces, and our businesses soared to new heights. Sloane, aside from being completely head over heels for me, was a sharp and formidable businesswoman. Within 3 years, she gave me a son and a daughter, all without letting it affect her work or the performance of the Kensington Group in the slightest. Meanwhile, Isabel Vance's mother suffered a heart attack and didn't survive the night. Her father decisively disowned his wayward daughter, severing all ties. The failure of the Grant-Vance engagement and the public scandal it caused created a rift between our families that never healed. To make matters worse, the Kensingtons and the Vances were business rivals. With my marriage to Sloane, the Grants and Kensingtons became ironclad allies. The Vance Corporation, having lost the support of grant-funded projects, saw its business and market value plummet. Later, my little demon Sloane, who loved to gossip, would occasionally update me on Isabel Vance's situation. Apparently, after eloping with Ace Ryder, they fled to some backwater town to hide. But Ace was broke, and they lived entirely off Isabel's savings. When the Vance family cut her off and froze all her accounts, she had to sell her jewelry to get by. Soon after, she got pregnant. Ace Ryder scoffed at the idea of manual labor, convinced he was a genius destined for great things. He spent his days drinking and gambling, lazing around their rented hovel. When Isabel was pregnant and needed money for a checkup, they had the biggest fight of their love story in that cramped, squalid apartment. Ace felt he was a godlike hero who had spent his last dime to fly back and rescue Isabel from a life of gilded misery. He believed that without him, she would still be suffering in a loveless marriage. So he showed her no sympathy, slapping her across the face a few times. Isabel, who had been a pampered princess her whole life, had never endured such hardship. They screamed at each other, trading blame and insults, which soon escalated into a physical fight. So much for their true love and freedom. Ace Rider beat her so badly that she had a miscarriage. She only survived thanks to a kind neighbor. For the sake of her worthless old flame, for a cliched fantasy of true love, she was no longer a Vance heiress or the future Mrs. Grant. Now, she couldn't even guarantee her next meal, let alone the carefree, extravagant life she once knew. Isabel Vance was consumed by regret. She took on 3 jobs a day, working herself to the bone, just to save enough money for a bus ticket back to New York. She was convinced that when she returned, I would be waiting for her. In her warped mind, it was perfectly normal for a CEO to fall in love with a runaway fiancé who'd had an abortion. But Ace Rider wasn't about to let his free meal ticket and live-in maid go so easily. When Isabel became disobedient, he started beating her 3 times a day. Later, when he racked up gambling debts, he realized that her waitressing job was too slow a source of income. He forced Isabel into prostitution, taking any client, regardless of who they were. Before long, Isabel contracted a serious disease. Even so, Ace Rider, her self-proclaimed savior, continued to force her out to work every night. Finally, Isabel Vance, the heroine of her own tragic story, snapped. One night, while Ace was passed out drunk, she stabbed him 49 times. Then, in a frenzy, she ran out and stabbed to death every client who had ever abused or humiliated her. In the end, while chasing down an innocent man who bore a slight resemblance to Ace, Isabel Vance was shot and killed by the police on the street. A classic case of someone who couldn't handle the consequences of their own stupid decisions. Her brain was just wired wrong. Thank God I'm a normal CEO. Otherwise, these psychos would have been the death of me.